What's up, guys? Welcome to the Chess Giants. Your boy Solomon Riddell. Today's video, I'm going to be sharing the third game I had in the recent 27th Annual Pacific Coast Open. If you've been following the last couple days, I'm at this point, I'm 1 out of 2, right? I lost the first game against FIDE master Alexander Kretchetov, right? And then the second game, I ended up winning against, expert level player Albert Zhang. Now, in this game, I'm going, 1 out of 2. I'm paired up against Joshua Harrison, a 2148 level player, and I'm here with the black pieces. Now, if you've been following again, after the first game, going into game 2, I was going, gosh, do I play the Hippo again? But now that I've played the Hippo and I won a game with it, and I'm 1 out of 2, I'm like, you know what, I'm playing black. I'm going to play the Hippo no matter what he goes with. And it's kind of funny, when we got to the table, neither of us brought a chess set. I joined the tournament last minute. I brought, nothing chess-wise, right? I mean, I even had to ask the hotel for a pen so I could write, notation. And he didn't bring one either, so he had to go get one. So really the first 10 minutes, I'm just sitting there. Everyone else started their games, and I'm just sitting there waiting for a chess set. But he ends up bringing it, and okay, we get started. Again, I here play a Hippopotamus Defense game, starting off with G6. I like, I used to start off with the Owens defense going into the Hippo, but I'm really starting to like G6. Prioritizing kingside development, G6, Bishop G7, D6, E6, Knight E7, etc. The thing about the Hippo, one way to stop the Hippo is by the opponent fianchettoing one of their bishops. And I personally would much rather get my kingside fianchetto in the board so that I can castle kingside, opposed to the other way around much of the time. So, okay, I play this move G6. My opponent here now continuing with Bishop C4. I mean, Josh here trying to put some pressure on F7. One of my key, really just rules, really. I mean, just a good rule of thumb is whenever you see a move like Bishop C4, make sure to lock that bishop down with a move like E6. Now, I don't play it right away. I actually here just play the move of Bishop G7 and just continue to play normal chess. I play D6 and now against D3. I then continue with E6. I don't want this bishop to attack my pawn F7, so let's just lock it down. And now after Bishop F4, I continue with the usual Knight E7 and now H6 followed by A6. Okay, now, sure, I could play a move like B6 and Bishop B7, but why not play A6 first in a position like this and see if the opponent's going to let us play this move of B5, kicking this bishop around, and then playing the move of Bishop B7. Here I was actually expecting the move of A4, but instead I see this move of A3 from Josh, trying to give this bishop some breathing room, and in that case I'm like, okay, I'll just play Knight D7 and then play this move of B5, kicking that bishop back. I play Bishop B7, and here, guys, I have reached my Hippopotamus Defense type setup, and now we see Josh continue with the move of Bishop E3 as white. Now, this isn't a bad move by any means. In fact, I think that white is still completely okay in this position, but we're actually sitting at an even evaluation at move 11, which in most openings is considered very good for black. A ton of people talk down on the Hippo, but guys, you go up against national master, FIDE master, expert level players, and oftentimes at move 10 or 11, you plug it into a computer, it's just going to tell you that the game's even, right? And here black has accomplished just that by playing very simple and easy chess. And here white has started to move their pieces multiple times. Now, and this is something that we see all the time against the Hippo. I mean, the Hippos, including for myself, I mean, if someone played the Hippo against me, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, I might just do a half Hippo as well, right? It's hard to go against. It's hard to find a concrete plan against it. I have heard that Daniel Naroditsky created a main line against it, so maybe you guys can go check that out. And, maybe I can make a video soon on, trying to research and try to find the best possible response against it that I can. But that being said, it's hard to go against. And this happens all the time where someone will just develop the pieces naturally. And then all of a sudden they see this weird setup, right? This very strange Hippo setup. And it's like, how do I attack that? What do I do next, right? It's just hard to come up with a game plan. So here we see this move, Bishop E3. When I saw this, I was going, okay, white here is really trying to prepare an F4, F5 push, which is one of the key ideas that you can play early on against the Hippo. I, as black, just continue with this idea of Knight B6. This is one of my favorite ideas in the Hippo. Of course, you can always move a central pawn or a flank pawn, but I personally love playing ideas like A6, B5, and then tucking this knight right behind. I also do it sometimes on the king side of the board, and really by playing this move of Knight B6, I'm attacking and really, just putting some pressure on the key square D5, supporting a D5 push in the future. Now here, Josh continues with Rook E1, making it clear he's going to try to play F4 and F5. I just continue now with C5, continuing to expand on the queen side, and now Queen C7. Nice little square for the queen, and, getting, just to a nice spot defending some key dark squares, and really just making d5 possible, right? I mean, a move ago, I couldn't have played d5 because I simply lose this pawn, you know, on c5 much of the time. But now, obviously, this pawn is defended. So here we see the move of knight g3, right? Trying to continue to support this move of f5. You know, and I go, look, I'm not just going to sit around, right? I don't want to just sit around and just let white just start to attack me with moves like f5, f6, etc. I play this move of d5, right? Putting some pressure on e4 and also threatening this move of d4, which would attack both the bishop on e3 and the knight on c3 as well. Now, I was actually looking at this idea of f5 from white, right? Whole idea being that, okay, I mean, f5 is played. At that point, I could play d4. I'm forking both of white's pieces, but all of a sudden f6 is played, and white is forking both of mine. It would have been a very interesting game. I mean, let's just put it on the board, right? f5, d4, f6. You know, I mean, the whole idea here, this is something I was looking at. The whole idea here is that, you know, I mean, if I take a bishop, for example, white can actually play f takes g7, right? And what they're wanting to do is, okay, I get the queen, but they get a rook and a queen with check against my king. So that's definitely not any good. And if I take this pawn on f6, okay, white, you know, obviously has the option of just capturing back. And okay, I take on e3, and we're going to be sitting at even material following a move like queen takes e3. Interesting position. This is something that I was looking at. However, Joshua decides not to go with that line following d5, looking at f5, f6 ideas, but instead plays this move of d4, expanding the center. You know, at this point, I'm going, okay, I mean, white is obviously threatening to potentially just take on c5. I think I really do need to take on either e4 or on d4 at this moment. I ended up taking on d4, attacking the bishop, taking the bishop off, and then simply castling queenside. This is one of my favorite things about the Hippo, guys. Look, if white is putting a ton of pressure on the king side like they are right now, I mean, they're one move away from breaking this thing open with f5. I mean, there's just no way around that. But I didn't commit to castling kingside. I kept my king in the center. If you're not sure where you want to castle in the Hippo, don't castle. You don't have to. You can castle whenever you'd like. Notice my king on e8 could have been 5 squares apart, simply depending, or I guess 4 if you count it, simply defending, depending on, you know, which way I want to go. So if you want to attack on the king side, okay, I'll castle queen side. That's exactly what I do. I think here white really needs to play a move like queen f6 or queen g7, putting some pressure on my pawns and then playing f5, breaking through. Obviously, right now, I'm threatening to take on e4 with tempo against the queen. So I think that's why, you know, white here needs to play a move like queen g7 and then play f5, breaking the game open. But instead, we see this move of e5. Now, this isn't a blunder from white, but it gives the Hippo player really the dream position. Guys, this is a dream position for the Hippo player. And the reason for this is that white has spent all this time, right? I mean, they've locked their rooks. The rooks are ready to go. They've pushed their pawns like crazy, but we've locked things up. And all of a sudden, it's black who is the one with the leverage here. In fact, at any point, we can play the move of knight c4 whenever we like. Whole idea being we're putting pressure on b2, and if the bishop takes back, okay, we take with the d pawn. Our rook on d8 is active. This bishop on b7 comes alive, and knight f5 ideas are always in the air. Now here I could have played knight f5 right away, but at that point white could just take the knight right off, and I don't want that. So let's play this move of h5, another key idea in the Hippo. Notice that white here doesn't have a Hippo setup like we do. We have pawns shielding our knight, white doesn't. So because of that, we can play h5, and the very next move, continue with h4, and start to look at ideas like knight f5. I actually play knight c4 first, putting some pressure on b2. And I mean, again, look, if you take on c4, I'll simply take back with a d pawn. Very active game there for black, an active rook, an active bishop, a knight on f5 on the way. Here white decides to go with the move of queen f2, and at this point, I decide to play h3. Now, I could have played this move, knight takes b2. You know, I ended up not going for this because from a practical standpoint, white plays this move of rook b1, and after knight c4, obviously black is much better here, but all of a sudden, white has potential in the future ideas, such as a4, breaking this game open, and it's like, why would I give white counterplay if I don't have to, right? Is it really worth a pawn to have a stressful game going forward? So I ended up not taking the pawn on b2, because that would simply give white some chances to attack on the queen side potentially. I instead just play this move of h3, right? Whole idea being, if you take the pawn, I'm going to take with the rook and then play rook d h8, and just continue to pounce down on the king side of the board. We see this move of g3, but now notice, guys, whenever this pawn takes on c4, even if we play a move like d4, this bishop on b7 is going to become alive. This king on g1 is in major, major trouble with the pawn all the way down on h3, putting some pressure on that spot. And guys, that's really one of the key hippo ideas that I really like. I mean, if an opponent against the hippo ever puts a knight on g3, oftentimes, our pawn's already on g6, right? I mean, that's just part of the hippo. And out of that, if we do see a move like knight g3, we can start to push our h pawn down the board, kick that knight out, and eventually throw in a move like h3. I mean, the hippo's very flexible. You can attack on the queen side, either direction, the center, the flanks. You got a lot of options. And it's at this point I finally go, okay, I'll play knight f5, right? I'm eyeing a square like e3. Obviously, if I can just throw one of my knights into e3, I'm simply going to go up the exchange. So here, my opponent just takes the knight on c4. But in this case, okay, I take back with the d pawn. And all of a sudden, I'm threatening this queen c6 idea. And notice that there's not really much that I can do about it because of this pawn on h3 and this bishop on b7 working together, right? I mean, if you play the hippo right, the hippo comes together very nicely. I'm threatening queen c6, and white can't really do anything about it. We see this move of g4, but I play queen c6 anyways. Whole idea being, look, you can take my knight. I don't, my apologies for that. You can take my knight. I don't really care. I just don't. I'm simply going to play queen h1 with checkmate. Game over. So here we see the move of knight g3, really the best move that white has here, just trying to hang on. Obviously, queen g2 is not a checkmate because of the queen, and queen h1 would be disastrous because the knight captures back. That being said, though, white's barely holding on. I mean, this queen and this knight on g3 are really overloaded. And because of that, I play this move of knight e3, right? I mean, this is just, why not, right? Just throw the knight into e3. I'm attacking both rooks and the pawn on g4. And notice if white takes the knight, queen g2 is a checkmate, game over. If a move like rook e1, I could always just go up the exchange or even just take the pawn on g4 first. I think I'm not sure what I would have done. I mean, rook e1, I'd probably just take the pawn on g4, honestly. It's just a really easy position to play with. And if, we give up a knight for a rook, white could potentially get knight e4, knight d6 ideas. Again, it's simply winning for black, but, positions like this, look, tournament setting, it's not all about, oh my gosh, what's the computer say is best? Because sometimes the computer could say something is better, and it is, but we're humans. We make mistakes. Computers don't. We could get ourselves into a very complicated position that we don't have to, even though it's better. Why not just get this simple and easy win, right? So if I did see a move like rook e1, I probably would have just taken the pawn on g4. However, here white tries to solve that problem of losing a rook potentially by simply taking with check and then playing the move of rook e1. But at this point, okay, I just take on g4, attacking the queen. And here we see the move of queen e2. Guys, I love speed chess. I love moving quickly. And I was thinking through some ideas here. I was thinking of, where to put this knight, potentially playing a move like knight e3, right? But I ended up going, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to take my time here. I'm not going to rush this. What is the best way to play? And it turns out, I found this idea, queen b6 is the best way for black to go here. Just attacking the king. Whole idea being white can't block it unless they want to lose their queen to the knight on g4. And if the move king f1 is played, which is what we see on the board, I have bishop g2 with check. And here, my opponent simply resigned the game because this king cannot move. White here is going to be forced to give up a queen, and this game is going to be over in a matter of moves. In fact, plug it into a computer program, it's a mate in 7 for black. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys got some key hippopotamus defense ideas out of it. I mean, just to go back very quickly, okay, so we got this move knight b6. We play c5. We play d5, trying to break open the game. I think really going ahead a few moves. I mean, d4, we take on d4, we castle queenside again. Keep your king in the center. That's one key idea in the hippo. Keep your king in the center and wait to castle either side, unless you already know which side you're going to castle on. I mean, if you're playing the hippo and your opponent, let's just say you're playing with black, okay, and your opponent plays d4, c4, b4, a4, a5, okay, they're throwing down their pawns on the queenside. We're not going to castle queenside. We know that. Okay, we'll castle kingside. Position like this, just keep your king in the center, keep your options open. And again, that key idea of playing a6, b5, and really using both the knights and the bishop to support that d5 push. And if you castle queenside out of that, this rook is really putting pressure on that queen, right? So here white decides to close things down. And for a brief moment, our pieces aren't super active, but these knights are going to start jumping in. you know, like kangaroos in this position. We play h5, h4, get that knight in on c4. e3's weak, e3's weak, and we end up pulling this thing out. So thanks for watching today's video, and pull up tomorrow to check out game 4, in which case I go up against National Master Gabriel Edelman, who's rated at 2249.